All right, we're back. It's the SilmFilm Script Discussion, Season 2, Episode 8, Part 3. 3? 4? 3? 3. Yeah. So, real quick, if you're watching this on YouTube in the future, look down below. You'll find a description. Not a description. There is a description down there, but you'll also find a link in the description, to information about Myth Moot 4, which will be taking place between June 1st and June 4th of next year. Looks like it's going to be an awesome time. Bunch of us Silm filmers will be there, and we're all really looking forward to it. We're also really looking forward to Marie reading to us from the Silmarillion.
Yay! Well, take it away, Marie.
Okay. For it came to pass that Melkor, as the Valar had decreed, completed the term of his bondage, dwelling for 3 ages in the duress of Maedhros alone. At length, as Manwë had promised, he was brought again before the thrones of the Valar. Then he looked upon their glory and their bliss, and envy was in his heart. He looked upon the children of Ilúvatar that sat at the feet of the mighty, and hatred filled him. He looked upon the wealth of bright gems, and he lusted for them, but he hid his thoughts and postponed his vengeance. Before the gates of Valmar, Melkor abased himself at the feet of Manwë and sued for pardon, vowing if he might be made only the least of the free people of Valinor, he would aid the Valar in all their works, and most of all in the healing of the many hurts that he had done to the world. And Nienna aided his prayer, but Maedhros was silent. Granted him pardon, but the Valar would not yet suffer him to depart beyond their sight and vigilance, and he was constrained to dwell within the gates of Valmar. But fair seeming were all the words and deeds of Melkor in that time, and both the Valar and the Eldar had profit from his aid and counsel, if they sought it. And therefore, in a while, he was given leave to go freely about the land. And it seemed to Manwë that the evil of Melkor was cured. For Manwë was free from evil and could not comprehend it, and he knew that in the beginning, in the thought of Ilúvatar, Melkor had been even as he. And he saw not to the depths of Melkor's heart, and did not perceive that all love had departed from him forever. But Ulmo was not deceived, and Tulkas clenched his hands whenever he saw Melkor his foe go by. For if Tulkas is slow to wrath, he is slow also to forget. But they obeyed the judgment of Manwë, for those who will defend authority against rebellion must not themselves rebel.
Yeah, so to me that's, Melkor says his piece, Nienna talks on his behalf, and Maedhros doesn't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
How we could... If we do, I feel like if it's in the text, we should try to put it in the show. So if you want to underscore the fact that Maedhros is not saying anything, but I don't think that's in relation to,
judgments. It's not to the judgment, because it's after that says Manwë says he has freedom into,
Right.
So I think that what it means is that while Melkor is talking and explaining himself and suing for pardon and offering to help,
right.
At some point, someone needs to look over at Maedhros and be like, what do you think about all this? Like, kind of like looking for him, and then Maedhros just sits there silently.
Right. Yeah.
Like, people have to kind of like prompt him for a response, and there's nothing.
Right. The character we have created demands that we prompt him for a response. Basically, Maedhros doesn't say anything unless somebody goes, okay, Maedhros, and then, yeah. Mm-hmm. He's like, I'm kind of frustrated actually with the number of, we've got 2. Is there another one? Maedhros and his wife are annoying to me. They're just very difficult to manage in the narrative.
Well, she's silent, so yeah, that's a little tough.
Yeah, they're annoying. And with Maedhros, it's like we have to give him a ... before he can actually say anything. That's annoying too.
Yeah, well, that's in the text. It says that Maedhros only speaks his dooms at the prompting of Manwë, essentially.
Yeah, I know.
So when Manwë says, so Maedhros, what do you want to tell us? Then he says something. And yeah, he's not omniscient, but he does know a lot.
Yeah.
After the darkening of Valinor, when Manwë is like, well, maybe this will all turn out for the best in the end, Maedhros is like, and yet remain evil. Like he's not going to do the hopeful, like, let's see what happens. But he also follows it up with, and Feanor will come to me soon. Like, he knows Feanor's dying.
Yeah.
In the very near future.
Yeah.
So it's...
I would not be above making Maedhros look kind of confused here and suggest that he doesn't actually know which direction Melkor's gonna go. Certainly, I think that would help us a little bit with sowing confusion among the attentive viewers, whether or not Melkor is going to be true to his word or not.
Okay.
But we don't have to. Basically, it depends. What it comes down to is how much do we think Mandos knows about anything.
Right.
If we decide he doesn't know quite as much, then having him look confused here would be appropriate.
I don't really see him being confused by very much.
Deep in thought about whether,
Yes.
contemplative of like, man, I don't know about this, but
okay.
He's talking
just
a good
very
game.
few things that happen surprise Mandos.
Yeah. Well, I mean, either it's which way is it gonna go, right? Because if it goes the bad way, I think he's gonna like. Of course, how could? Yeah, this is if it goes bad, then sure, all of these things will obviously happen. But if it doesn't, then all of these good things happen.
Okay, so just to point out what levels of foresight Mandos has, his emblem, his symbol, is the moon in eclipse.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, but think about this.
No, I get it.
You don't get a moon until after you destroy the trees.
Right.
And you don't get an eclipse until after the world is round.
Right.
So when we say that Mandos knows what's going to happen...
Well, there's one more component to that, which is there has to be a sun to reflect light off the moon.
Yeah, so, the sun and moon are made at the same time. But so you have to destroy the trees to make the moon.
Right.
And then you have to make the world round at the drowning of Numenor. And then you can get the moon in eclipse, and that's his symbol, and it has been the whole time since the beginning.
Right.
And no one knew what it was until later.
Right. I'm willing to chalk that one up to Tolkien actually didn't parse that, but it's possible he did. I don't know. I could go either way on that.
Now I have to remember where it shows up that that's his symbol, because I have no idea how I know that.
Yeah.
I really don't remember. I don't think I made it up, so that's a good starting point.
I'm pretty sure it's not in my fan fiction.
Pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it is in my fan fiction, but I'm pretty sure I didn't make it up.
Marie, I was just about to say, Marie doesn't write fan fiction. What are you talking about?
I totally didn't write a 15-chapter story of the Feanorians and Mandos.
Yeah.
No.
Fan fiction.
Why would I have done such a
thing? Fan fictions? Who are you kidding?
By the way, Brandon is saying whoever drew the Michael Corleone from The Godfather parallel with Feanor is really smart, because while not the same change we want, it's a great example of a character changing while still seeming like the character we've been following.
Okay, so that was me on the discussion boards. I've never seen the movie The Godfather, so I'm just going by what people have told me is in the movie The Godfather.
Okay, we're canceling the rest of what we're doing right now, and you're going to go watch The Godfather.
No, actually. Obviously, I know enough about what's in it to make those parallels.
Yeah, well, it is sort of a singular piece of work in American cinematic history.
So I have been told. I've also never seen the one about the sled, and I've never seen
that
anything.
Movie is boring. Citizen Kane is very dry and boring.
But as far as famous movies that people are supposed to watch if they care about cinema, I don't care about cinema, so I haven't watched it. And I've also never watched anything by Kurosawa. That's not true.
Oh, God. Run for your life.
I think I might have watched his last film.
Kurosawa is the master of camera. So if you want to watch someone do art with moving camera and framing and all of that, just watch a Kurosawa movie.
Sure. So I've been told he's amazing. I just haven't actually seen anything. All right. So there's gaps in my knowledge.
Okay. So anyway, okay. While we're having this trial, do we want to cut to the elves at all during the first act? Because I think we should. Because it'll break up the trial.
I don't know if I want to break up the trial.
I think that since we are later going to have the issue of the Valar not telling the elves things, it would make sense to have the elves be a little confused about what's happening.
Right.
Because
that's what I mean.
The Ring of Doom, the Mahanaxar, is not enclosed. There's not a wall around it.
Yeah.
It's right next to the trees. So literally anybody walking by could see what they're doing there.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is I was very
brought up before.
I was very much of the opinion that the elves should not specifically be barred from the thing, that they should just not be invited. But Professor Olsen seemed to have
he seemed very adamant that they not be there.
Yeah. Well, not just that they not be there, that they specifically be not allowed to go.
Right.
I thought it might be fine to have, like, I was even willing to do things at the gates and just have elves kind of be, because why would they be at Valmar per se, right? At this point they've all got their own cities. I mean, people could be walking by and be like, what's this? This seems like a big deal.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's a couple of things that Professor Olsen has really gone to bat on that I'm like, why is this such a big deal to you? I don't think this is as important as you seem to think it is.
Well, that was my thing about this, is that the bar on the elves creates a narrative problem, and it's not in the book. So we're making a change from the book because reasons.
Well, there is a reason. There is a reason, and it's because this is private Valar business, and we do want to create that distance so that later, when the Valar just haven't told the elves things, it's not a surprise to us.
Right.
Because the Valar have not said anything about men to any of the elves ever. Right. And that's why Melkor gets to be the first one to say it.
But I don't think we have to bar them to emphasize the point that, like, they just don't have to be invited. And we don't see many, if any, there. Are people really going to go, oh, where are the elves while all this is happening? They're doing elf things in their elf cities that they have already. I don't see this as a big, huge problem.
There's a few things. And one is, if we wanted to show the elves, we could show Melkor being taken to the trial. So he has to travel from Mandos to the Ring of Doom.
Chickens and whatnot, walking past gasping elves.
Right, so like there could be elves lining the streets to see him being brought to trial. Mommy? Yeah, and that would at least show why the elves are talking about this and like, oh, what's going on? And then if we just don't have any elves at the trial, but like don't make any big deal about them not being there.
Yeah,
we've shown the elves.
Better. That's I'm on your team. That works for me really well.
Well, Nick was the one who had the problem with it, so let's. I didn't care whether or not the elves were at the trial.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, my problem with it was a structural one, which we have fixed by not making the elves their conflict to be the issue. Like, if we don't center the plot around the elves, then the problem goes away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I had to make Melkor the protagonist in order to make that work.
Yeah, but I like that so much.
I like it now.
Yeah, that's so good. Are you kidding me? You're a genius. You don't even know it.
No, I'm fully aware of the fact that I'm a genius.
One thing that we haven't been short of on this project are egos. We are all convinced that we've got this figured out, and we're great at it.
It's the only way that I can possibly mask all of the many, many insecurities I have about myself.
Aww. Now you sound like my baby brother.
It's not.
Brandon also thinks you absolutely must watch The Godfather.
There you go. See?
Yeah.
Here.
The internet said so. You must do it.
You guys, obviously people have mentioned this to me in the past. I'm aware that it's a well-liked movie.
Clearly they
that
have
it's well done.
taken the no-nonsense track necessary to get you to remedy the situation. But we're just going to emphasize...
Fortunately, Brian lives too far away from you to
drive to your house and
to make it. Yeah, to
knock on my door and be like, "You need to watch this."
to do an intervention. Yeah. All right. So,
Get real Clockwork Orange in here real fast.
So
I've never seen that either.
Oh my god.
There's a lot of movies I haven't seen. Okay, I'm not a film person.
You've been reading the whole time?
Pretty much.
Okay, so here's the thing, and I mean, like, have we really? So, because like Professor Olson was emphatic about the elves not being allowed there. So, have we solved the problem of how we make sure they're not there? Do we prevent them from being there, or is the Ring of Doom just chock full of Ainur, and the elves like walk up and they can't see?
I don't think we show that at all. I don't think we show elves trying to go to the trial.
Okay, yeah. So we just ignore. I'm okay with this, by the way, but we just ignore the fact that they could just randomly walk up and look in, but they don't. Okay,
because they weren't invited. They weren't invited, so they don't go, and they're just
know that it's happening.
They talk amongst themselves.
Right.
Okay.
And I think I think people could be walking by going, that seems like a big to-do, and then rumors spread because of that.
Okay.
Because the elves have to find out what happened, and I would like them to know what happened before. Like, there should be a proclamation, like, okay, everybody, this is Melkor. He's kind of a douche. Talk to him if you want. Go back to your homes, right? Like, there should be like a hear you moment.
What kind of proclamation is that?
Yeah, it was the best kind. That was the best kind. Like, I'm being silly, but I'm also like, the point is that the Valar are kind of not good at this yet. Like, they don't really consider the reason the elves are not at the trial for me is because yes, it's not elf business, but it's not that they've decided it's not elf business, it's that it hasn't occurred to them that the elves would need to know very much about this, right? Now, obviously, Melkor being dangerous once they decide he can come out, that should be a thing that they should say something about, because he tried to kill them, right? So I feel like the more we can kind of demonstrate sort of sins of omission on the part of the Valar, because they're not thinking in terms of, like, I want to distinguish the point of view that the Valar have from the point of view that the elves have, right? Because that's going to make the problems that they have specifically with Feanor, but also all of the Noldor, make a lot more sense. Like, why didn't we see this coming? Well, we don't really understand the elves as much as we think we ought to, right?
Gotcha. Okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah. So, but that's why I feel like specifically saying, no, you can't come to, that doesn't seem like the right angle that we want to cultivate for the Valar, right? It seems more to me that they were like, why would we invite the elves to this? This is our thing. They don't need to be here. Okay.
So so the only place that I can imagine that they would be able to see that something's going on would be in Valmar.
Yeah.
Obviously we want elvish characters to be there, and we want to start setting up the new characters that we're now having to introduce.
Right.
Okay, so there's one character available in Valmar who might be interesting in this episode, but it's kind of like Eonwë is interesting, but he doesn't actually do anything or fit.
Right.
Indus's mother, Ingwe's wife, was captured by the hunter and killed.
Okay.
Which is, the hunter, of course, turns out to have been Sauron, but she doesn't know that.
Right.
Right.
And they're basically just told this is the bad guy. So would she have any, inclination to warn the other elves against Melkor? Or she's also been to Mandos, unlike the rest of them, so can she be like, oh no, Mandos is great, it gives you a time to contemplate your life and get over your pain, and it's so much better when you come back. Because her experience in Mandos is going to be different than his.
I kind of feel like speaking from experience about the Black Rider is not necessarily something we want to bring up at this point.
I have a question. What characters would we need to introduce as adults who haven't been adults yet so far. Fingolfin.
Yeah.
And Finarfin as well.
Finarfin. Okay.
Yeah.
Do they have kids yet?
Yes.
Are they adults?
so
Are
they
any of them?
Because
are
we need Fingon and Maedhros in this episode.
Yep.
Right.
Fingon and Maedhros can be children, although technically they really shouldn't be the same age. Maedhros should be older.
Yeah.
But it was requested that we show them having a middle school friendship where they're inseparable, which kind of requires children.
Well, Feanor could have started late.
Really?
I understand how that. I get what you're saying. But
Yeah. We specifically show Fingolfin being a child at Feanor's wedding. So presumably Feanor and Nerdnell have their first child like a year later.
Yeah.
I could see Feanor being too busy.
No.
With a project.
They have 7 children.
Silmarillions? Well,
Yeah,
but they have 7 children over the course of hundreds of years. It's not like
they have infinite time in which to have like we have no idea how much time passes during any of this.
You're right, we don't.
So
it's just
we can totally make it up.
It's just going to be a little weird if the age gap between Feanor and his brothers doesn't show up in their children. If all the cousins are growing up together, even though there's an age gap between Feanor and then Fingolfin.
But there doesn't have to be a huge age gap. There can be an age gap of like
we can have somebody razz him about the fact like, when are you guys going to start having kids? You've been married for 600 years. What the heck's going on?
There's ways of
I certainly don't want to.
Well, I got all this stuff
do
at
it
work.
if we're gonna.
I'm working on this thing that I'm working on, and she's got her own thing that she's doing, and we're fine.
No, because the last episode ended with their wedding, and this episode they have a child who's at least middle school age.
Okay, so finally got around to it, huh? It took you long enough.
But
I don't think anybody would be commenting on that, and also I don't. If we're going to have,
I don't think you've seen the internet.
What?
I think people will comment, but that's me.
No. I don't think that people would comment. People in universe would comment on.
Yeah.
Ah, right.
I mean, not 10 to 12 years after the fact. Like, why? Who does
10 to 12 years would be not long enough for an elf to even notice. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think they're having a baby a year after. I don't necessarily think they go home and immediately consummate their marriage. I don't think elves necessarily work that way.
I think Feanor and Nerdnell do.
Maybe. If there were to be a case made for it, they would probably be the most.
I think that if we have Fingon and Maedhros be around the same age and don't specifically hang a lampshade on it, I think that we like the
no one will care.
Tolkien. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the Tolkien purists will let us. Will not murder us in our beds.
Well, certainly they will be the only ones cranky about it, and if the internet has taught me anything, nobody cares what nerds think. So
it's up to us how we want to do.
Have you been watching pop culture for the past 10 years?
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly.
We're the only ones people care about what we think.
No. If you're smart, you ignore all of the nerds. That's the lesson I've learned.
Yeah. The reality is that Tolkien did not specify a birth date for the sons of Feanor. So when the kids are born, when Feanor's kids are born is up for grabs.
Make it up.
Fingolfin and Finarfin's kids are called out. Their oldest and their youngest. So we know when, for instance, Finrod's born.
Right.
We know that Galadriel and Aredhel are born the same year.
Yeah.
We know, I think, when Fingon is born. I forget. The point is, they're Turgon. Sorry, Turgon is called out in there. But the point is that those kids show up in the Tale of Years. Feanor's kids don't, so you can't say definitively how close they are in age.
So make it up. Next.
We can. It just traditionally most people have assumed that Maedhros is significantly older than Fingon. so that he was more of a like big brother character to Fingon than we're both the same age and growing up at the same time.
I mean, either one of those is fine. Like they don't have to be. They could be, human equivalent, like 2 years apart. I don't know what that is in elf years, but
yeah,
like plenty of people. I know plenty of people. Well, even little brothers, like actual brothers, if they're 2 years apart, they run around together. So
yeah. Okay. Regardless of how we do that, the point of who we need to introduce in this episode, we do need adult Fingolfin, adult Finarfin, who are both married at this juncture, and we do need Fingon, the oldest son of Fingolfin, and Maedhros, the oldest son of Feanor. I think that's all we were establishing.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that because there are some characters that we need to kind of get into and unpack at this point, I would be hesitant to spend a lot of time with a character who really isn't important. I mean, if anything, I would like to see. I would like to see maybe the Finway family like on holiday in Valmore or something like that, so that we can actually get them.
We can throw a festival of some sort, and everyone comes to Valmore for the festival.
That's our solution to every problem.
Well,
Indus could just be visiting her dad.
Yeah.
So that would explain the adult Fingolfin and Finarfin. Yep. Feanor wouldn't be there, but that's okay.
Right. Do that. It's possible that they have never been to Valmore yet.
Yeah.
And that so like they're being received at what's his face's court.
Ingwe.
While the trial, at Ingwe's court. Thank you. At Ingwe's court, while he's while the trial is going on. Anyway, let's take a break real quick. Right? Yeah. All right, we'll be back in a minute if you're watching us live. If you're watching on YouTube in the future, definitely like and share the videos if you like and want to share them. If you haven't yet, feel free to subscribe. This has been the SilmFilm Script Discussion, Season 2, Episode 8. See you in a little bit.